Alright, and we're live. What's up, everybody? It is GMrDrew here to welcome you to another episode of the Andrew Glowshevsky Experience. This is going to be episode 484, Into the Burbur. I was working on this sketch, right? I drew this out, and there's not much to it because I was aiming for something, like I said. I'm okay with how I approach clothes and wrapping clothes on. Like I was always interested in drawing the body, but then obviously you gotta clothe the body unless you're drawing like naked bodies all the time. It's kind of what like comic books do. They just draw a superhero, but they're just drawing the anatomy, and that, you know, those super suits are like skin tight. You know what I mean? Like they're right on there. You're basically drawing anatomy, and then you just kind of cover up the private parts. You call it a day. You know, you throw a cape on, you throw gloves on, and you know there's just a few additions, a few details. So it's more or less easy, but when it gets a little bit more difficult when it comes to characters that have extra layers onto them. You know, if they're wearing like a mechanical suit, like Lex Luthor when he's fighting Superman with the kryptonite green suit, like that's more mechanical. You can kind of just draw, you know, a human's head on a robot, and then just be like he's wearing a mechanical suit, like Iron Man when he takes his mask off. Even though it's still kind of on the body, adheres to the body, it kind of shows the anatomy. You know, you can still point out the chest, the abs, the shoulders from the biceps, things like that. Trying to tackle puffy, baggy clothes was something that I was always interested in, and there was one show that came out a long time ago, and they did it perfect. So this isn't really a, you know, read books part of the stream, but it kind of is, because I got me a book here that I want to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. So before I just jump into drawing this one, and you know, let's take one last look at like what I've done so far. Like so far these are pretty similar. You know, it's like a trench coat style with you know, whatever, she's wearing a hat here, she has like a fuzzy collar here, you know, but more or less it's pretty similar. Really, I'm just trying to tackle the colors here. I'm super happy with the colors. I'm really happy with these results, by the way. You know, these are super cool for me. So even though I'm really happy with the results that I've been getting for myself, this book's called Battle Cry. It's a Samurai Champloo art book. It shows a little bit of the character boards, a little bit of the backgrounds, you know, just some of the work that went into it. You know, it's an anime created by the same guy who did Cowboy Bebop. Japan, they work on all sorts of projects, and they rotate roles and things like that. But this was probably after Bebop, he worked on this show as far as like being the director, being the lead director in this show. I love this show. I love this show almost as much as Bebop. It's more youthful, more hip hop than Bebop was. So it's like apples and oranges to me, but Bebop came first, so it's kind of like the first love, where this is more of a second love. And Bebop always had that you know, that jazzy style. Now this book is beautiful just because it has so many like textures and patterns and things like that were used in the anime, especially like in the commercial break cards, you know what I mean. And you know, this book has a bunch of beautiful stuff in there, but I don't really want to focus too much on the book as much as I want to focus on the clothing on the characters. Not all of this applies to what I'm talking about. Like with Fu here, you know, there's really not much happening, even when she gets like chubby Fu. What's happening with the clothing doesn't happen here. It was something that I saw when I used to watch the show, and I was like, how is this guy doing this? How is the character design working out like this? And it's not with Fu characters here. I'll show you. You know, I'm just flipping through the book to kind of show you, you know, how much fun, just to reminisce in this show. Now, Gene's design kind of has it a little bit. The bagginess, and I think it was because it was like a hip hop based show. There was a lot of hip hop elements as far as like making the clothes baggier and making the some of the B characters in there a little more thuggish, but there's obviously like a hip hop flair to everything. Even Gene's character, not so much, just because he's a straight laced character. You could almost see what I'm trying to convey here, at least in his pants, things like that. Like if you look from his pants to his feet, but they're really covering up most of his body. Even the sleeve is long, goes all the way down to his wrist. So even this isn't really showing what I'm talking about. But this pose right here shows exactly what I'm talking about, and then there's more of this in this book, so I'm gonna get to those. But I'm just kind of flipping through little by little. I love these little notes with the eyes. Everything's in Japanese, so I don't even know what they're saying. But I really love how it's like this show really like showed a lot of eyes and expressions and things like that. A lot of animes, all the characters pretty much have the same eyes. So this is something that went into the character designs on this show that was like really powerful. Every character had a different shaped eye. It's something that like when this show is going on, Grand Theft Auto is also going on, and the artwork in Grand Theft Auto, because you dealt with so many different races and different gangs and things like that. A lot of the character designs in those, not in the 3D models so much, but in the promotional art or just the art that came on the box and things like that. All the characters that they had drawn out, like their eyes had a really specific shape to them, whether it was a round eye or more, I don't even know, thinner eye, whatever you want to call it. But they all had different shapes to them. This show actually focused a lot on those eyes and the shape of the eyes, and that's stuff that's like, man, I haven't begun to break down characters like that so much. Like I'll do portraits and I'll do full body stuff for my concepts, but it's more like it gets to like this level of detail. But check this out. In this pose, you can see a little bit more of his limbs, his arms, his legs, or at least his forearms and his shins. But look how baggy the clothes are. And if you're familiar with the show, Gene's like a tall, slim character. So you look how like thin his body is. And you could almost you could almost imagine the anatomy underneath the clothing and how thin he is. So then you could see what I mean by like the puffiness and the bagginess of the clothes. I don't know how that's done. I still haven't really quite figured it out in a way that I could just draw it on a whim. And that's what I'm trying to get to. I could look at this book, kind of get fresh, get a quick refresher, and then go into it. And then I'll, more or less accomplish what I'm looking for. In my mind, I always tell myself, like, just draw the clothes a little bit bigger on the character. It was something I was trying to do when I was working on this character. I don't even know when. This is why I date my work. Like, when I was working on this character, anytime I try to think about a time that I almost pretty much kind of achieved what I wanted to, it was like with this pose here, you could almost see like there's so many layers of clothes here, so it kind of makes sense that the clothes is a little bit bigger. But even this doesn't get it because there's so many layers. You know what I mean? Here with the top being folded over, folded down, creates that bagginess. But then you see here, it's not so baggy. It's a little form-fitted, almost. You know what I mean? Like there's a little bag, but not too much. So when I was working on this character, I kind of almost got it, but even then, like I'm looking at it now and I'm like, I didn't quite get it. There's so much detail, even in there's small drawings, but there's a lot of details, and like I said, a lot of layers to the clothing that made it big, made it a little bit puffier, baggier looking, but not necessarily puffy and baggy. You know what I mean? Like if he only wore one shirt and that one shirt was big and puffy on him, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's what I see what's happening here. I'm sure he has like, I don't know, 2-3 shirts on, 2-3 pants on. Like I don't know what he's wearing, but it looks like he's wearing just a t-shirt and pants, or you know, some baggy pants or some baggy shorts and a shirt. But look how big the clothes are compared to how big the sleeves are and how big the opening is at the bottom of the pants here, the pant leg, you know, in relation to the anatomy, to how thin he is. Like, this picture kind of is the thing that I always think about when I'm like, oh man, you know, Gene's still a straight-laced character. He wasn't like super hip-hop with his, you know what I mean? But Mugen, on the other hand, I have to go through this book again. You know, it's so good. It's so good. The artwork, the style, everything in this show was so great, man. I fucking love it. This is one that I got the Blu-rays for, but I don't have. I don't think they're available for digital where I get my digital things. So it's like I haven't bought like a digital thing, I don't think. So I'm like forced to like watch it on like not YouTube, like Netflix or Crunchyroll or something. But you see, this one I think about a lot also. Like these this character board right here. Like look at this where the waistline is right here. See how this shirt is kind of bells in and then flares out just a little bit, but you see how big and baggy the sleeve is compared to how you would see a sleeve like on a regular t-shirt. I know it's like the old Japan style with the, you know, the way that they make their sleeves, and I don't even quite know what it's called or how to explain it, but you know, we kind of know, like they have the sleeves and they're like really big. Same thing's happening here, but the aesthetic like screams hip hop. It's almost like he's just wearing a shirt that's too big for him. But you see how big the waistline is here, but then check out how pencil thin his legs are. You know what I mean? Look at the opening of the pant leg. Even this doesn't quite do it because the pant leg is coming in instead of like flaring out. You know what I mean? It's coming in. But even with that, like, look at the difference between the pant leg and then the leg and the limb, you know? Between the sleeve and then the limb. There's so much air, puffiness, and bagginess to it. But even this one, it kind of gets it, but not really, because you could even kind of imagine his clothes like resting on him. But if you look at I look at like these small details, like from his traps to where the shirt is. Like his trap is down here, but the shirt is way up there. You know, same thing on this side. It's like thick. In order to achieve that thickness without like making everything too convoluted, you know, he has that really thin neck also. So it's like, it's just something I haven't, like, I imagine when the artist drew this stuff, they're going in one stroke. They're just going, they're just drawing it in one stroke, getting it done. Like that's kind of what I've always been looking for, especially with my show. You know, my story that I'm working on, some of the characters and everything like that. Like, everything is always so like comic book style as far as like the clothes being form-fitting and things like that. I'm trying to get more comfortable with throwing in wrinkles but not getting too over detailed. I plan on animating these things, so referring to this is perfect as far as like the amount of detail that you want to get. So how to achieve all that puffiness and all that other stuff with a minimal amount of line work. Super important. But, you know, like, look, the waistline, like, if I'm looking at his anatomy, looking at how thin everything is, I don't think his waist is that thick. I just haven't gotten around to it. Like, even, you know, the whole breakdancing thing. Like, yeah. But there's some other characters in here that definitely, they really start to get baggy. See, even little things like this character here, it might have just been, I don't know, some thugs from some episodes. Man, I haven't watched this show in so long. I gotta get back to it. But like, look at the bagginess here. And even this guy, he has like a little bit of muscle to him. Look how like the pencil thin legs, but then the bagginess here and the waistline. Like, he's wearing a belt, but the bagginess, it just puffs out, but it doesn't look fat. It looks like baggy clothes, you know? Even this guy, he's pretty straight-laced, but he has that kind of like a Chinese style. Like, this is actually kind of dope. You know what I mean? Where where it's cuffed off almost like some like jogger pants, has the cuffs on them, and yeah, then it bags out. That's super cool. I'm actually on my Patreon. I haven't even gotten to that character yet, but to posting that character, but I'm working on a character right now. Actually, very similar to this as far as like having the cuffed, you know, the clothes cuffed at the wrist and ankles and stuff like that, but a lot of bag to it, and that's what I mean by I haven't been able to achieve it, because that's what I've been working on, and I'm not getting the results that I want. I'm getting good results. It looks cool. If I had to move this or I had to draw this 100 times, I just don't know. You know what I mean? I gotta watch this show again, really get around to it. The same thing here. You know, I always look at the waistline, but then you think about how much clothing there is. Like, all these characters are like thin. They're so thin. But then the clothes on them is so big. It's like, figure out how to do it. I haven't really figured that out yet. But yeah, there's some better examples of what I'm talking about. Oh yeah. See, like, this guy got hella baggy clothes. And that's just it. Like, see how Gene's clothes, like the first example of Gene's character, I was saying like his pants and his sleeves covered the entire limb, so it wasn't really showing what I'm talking about. But now that you see what I'm talking about, you look at this guy and look how baggy the clothes are. Look how big they are. And it creates this really interesting like silhouette and things like that. Haven't really figured out how to just do that. You know what I mean? I think I just do too much when I try to get to it. Like, I could look at it, I could see, I'm like, yeah, you can see the sleeve starts small. It's almost hitting the limb, you know what I mean? But I can imagine how skinny this guy's arms are, because he's not like a warrior. He's like a notary or something like that. You know, everything just flares out. And I feel like if I try to achieve that, I just don't get it. I just don't get it, you know? Even this, where the jacket and the pants are pretty much one line, and then they just use one line to differentiate from it, to break the jacket from the pants. It's so interesting. It's so interesting to me. But let me see. There we go. Got the graffiti twins. And this is what I mean, man. I think like everything is always about, like, I always think about this show and I think about the clothes that I'm trying to capture with some of my characters that have the baggier clothes. And I think, you know, when I look at these things, it's just like, okay, just make the character really thin. But they're big characters too with baggy clothes, so it's kind of like, you know, like this guy, he's a big guy, but the clothes on him still make him look baggy. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, maybe he just has small limbs, but then this is his belt right here, and the belt is big, but I don't think his waist would be that big, you know? So it's like, that's the thing, I can't explain it. If I were to just draw off the top of my head and I had someone who had a belt on, obviously the belt is there to hug the waist. However they figured that part out, where they could just draw it on a whim like this, it's crazy. You know, even looking at this character, the bagginess, you know what I mean? Everything is the sleeves, extra big, flaring out. The jacket, flaring out. Even the pants underneath, like, their puffiness, and the jacket's still puffy on top of the pants, but the fabric itself doesn't look puffy. You know what I mean? Even here, when I was talking about Mugen and the traps, like, all this is aligned. His traps and the jacket is all aligned. His arm is there, so it's like, where's his shoulder hitting? If his shoulder's here, you know, he got some wide ass shoulders, but this character isn't like big, you know what I mean? Like, he ain't built and extra muscular. So it's almost like the anatomy's broken apart. It's almost like his arm is here and it's not attached to his body in here. You know what I mean? Like, the legs are down here, but the waist, like, this character is so thin, like, his waist wouldn't be this wide. And you just, I don't see what the body is underneath the clothes. It's really weird. You know what I mean? You know, same thing. Super baggy. Super baggy. Like the thing that I always get is like, yeah, skinny limbs. And then just draw big clothes. But man, trying to figure out like how they capture that waistline. You know, even here. You know what I mean? Like how. So yeah, I always refer to this book because I'm always interested in how they got the clothes to fit. Like, and remember, this is an animation show. All this stuff is moving. You know what I mean? So they figured it out. They made it work. It's almost like they're drawing two bodies. It's like they're drawing the clothing as one body, and then they're drawing like the actual limbs that protrude from the clothes as like a completely different body. It's really weird. Man, I really wish I would know how they like figured that out, because there's even like other shows and other animes, and obviously, you know, Japan, and there's a lot of Japanese shows, and they all, you know, a lot of them deal with like that feudal era, but they don't look like this. You know what I mean? Like, look at, I just don't know how they figure these things out. So I always like to come back to this book specifically to look at the clothing. Now the problem with doing that is, like, you know, obviously this is heavily Japanese style. The characters that I have are all from all over the place, so it's like how to apply this kind of hip hop logic to other types of clothes. Like think of like I don't know, some like French style with the frilliness and all that other stuff, but make it puffy and make it look like this on a character. It's really weird, man. And somehow they know how to make it look right per character. You know, like when they're fighting a guy at the end of the show, he still kind of has that look, but you know he's not going like extra baggy, extra hip hop. This guy, like, even though they captured the look for him, he doesn't look like the Tengu guy, and he's not looking like the Graffiti Twins and their style. You know what I mean? Like theirs is more street. His seems a little bit more like casual, formal. You know, even old people, like, just skinny limb, but then all this sleeve, and it's like, dang, man. Like, trying to imagine the shoulder connecting with that body, trying to imagine the waist like that, and then it like flares out. Everything looks like there's like a bagginess to it. Like even like, and these are like super simple drawings. You know what I mean? There's not much going into them. Like everything that I'm working on with, like, that I just finished. Like, you know what I mean? I'm grabbing, like, I'm getting the wrinkles in there, and there's a lot of foreshortening happening. Like, another thing that's happening with at least these characters is that they're all just standing there. You know what I mean? They're not really doing too much. You know what I mean? They're not like reaching for you, where there's like a foreshortening happening, whole lot of perspective. It's a whole lot of like almost just standing there with just a minimal amount of action to it. That's another thing to consider, but it doesn't change the fact that they were able to achieve that, because, you know, you go watch the show, there's plenty of animation happening. There's a whole bunch of fight scenes and everything like that. And it's just like, I don't know how they do it. You know what I mean? I believe this is supposed to be Fu's dad, and you never see him. Like, he's like when you do see him, he's laying in a bed, he's covered underneath a blanket, if that is him, and you know what I mean, if I remember it correctly. But like, look at the way the clothes fit him. You know what I mean? Look how, like, you can see like how the legs, they're just like that pencil thinness, but you can see how it flares up here, so the waist and the belt would be big. But it's like, how do people this thin have belts that are fitting that big? You know what I mean? It's almost like that's where all the magic is happening, is right there at that waistline, where everything is out a little bit more, and then it gives the extremities, you know, that space to flare out and breathe. Like, this guy's wearing baggy shorts. Look at the baggy sleeves, you know what I mean, hanging below the hand. Like, that's how baggy this is, but you can still see how thin his limbs are comparative. You know what I mean? It's like wide shoulders, wide waists, and then just pencil thin, bone thin limbs. And it's like, I know all the elements that are in there, like visually, but then if I spend too much time away from this book and then I'm like thinking about it, trying to capture it. I can't do it. I just can't. So cool. This is so cool, man. Like even just looking at something like that is super dope. Yeah. Yeah, this book is great. I love it. And then, you know, they have like everything from like the finished work to at the end of the book you'll see they have like the pencil, just like the line work, you know. It's like let me see if this, oh, you can barely see it though. See, there's like them running, so I thought maybe it'd be like an action scene. You could kind of see like that, all that anatomy and clothing like in motion, but it's a little dark, you know. But yeah, man, you get cool shit like that, you know what I mean. Never made it into the show. It's just like kind of like the sideways promotional art. See what I mean? Like look how thin like the character is. Like this is how thin I imagine they all are. They're all like skeletons, you know what I mean? But then the clothes on them, like look like look at all that space there and all that space back there. Like the wind's blowing, but even if the wind wasn't blowing, like all that fabric is still there, you know what I mean? The puffiness of it just bagging out. And you know, even this character, like got the head, thin neck, thin long neck, but then like layers of clothing, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you know what I mean? You know, a little insight. See, like there's like a bunch of action shots in here, you know what I mean? It's a shame that these aren't isolated images that I can kind of just look at, you know. It's all just kind of collaged together to create this really cool looking page, you know, for graphic design purpose, but not for like looking at these poses in action and seeing how the clothes, just so much air in the clothes, you know. But you know, this kind of captures what I'm talking about, only because you can see the waist. You can see how the waist is so thin, but like the clothes are so puffy, but then they billow in the wind like it's not like a really thick blanket or a really thick jacket or a really thick anything. They move and they hang and fold like it's a really thin material. It's really crazy, man. I don't know how they do it. But yeah, let's see. Like, and then they have all like the background arts. Like I love looking at this stuff, especially when I'm trying to like work on environments. I haven't revisited this book in a minute. But yeah, so cool, man. Just little things like this is so cool to me, you know. I think this is like in episode 1 where they first meet and fight, you know what I mean? Mugen's like jumping off of the beams here, you know, utilizing space and everything. I think that's one thing that animation gets on like the video games, where, you know, I guess because of the programming and stage, you have characters that can bounce off of the side of the screen, but they may not necessarily be bouncing off of something. In action games like Devil May Cry, you could do that kind of stuff. Like you could jump and bounce off a wall or something, or like the Jedi game that came out recently, all that stuff. But when it comes to like fighters, you know what I mean, they're not really doing too much. Like there's Vega who climbed the cage, and that was like a one-off, you know what I mean? It's like only Vega could do it, and only this stage can do it, and that's about it. Any other time they're just jumping off of the side of the screen, you know what I mean? Wall bouncing. Oh my god. I just love like the shapes and everything that they use for this squirrel character, you know, and the whole wing thing. Imagine trying to throw clothes on something like this. That's kind of actually one of the issues I'm having right now with one of my character designs. I haven't started like streaming that character yet, but I'm working on it as far as like the writings go. Oh, which by the way is like fun. Just real quick, I'm realizing that even though I have my plan for my my concept art to, you know, attack the world map in a certain direction, and I was like, I'm not going to be getting to my main character anytime soon. I realized like months ago when I was writing, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of doing some rough sketches for these characters in order to get to the story and get to the book, because I'm sure I'll start working on the actual first like chapters of the first story, and you know, getting those first panels in and everything like that. I'm gonna have to do the concept designs for those characters first, and a lot of them are like on the latter end as far as like the current plan of like how I'm attacking the world map from the southeast to the northwest of the world. So I think this gives like a fun opportunity while I work on the concept art in that direction. I can also start working on concepts, like more finished work than what I'm doing while I'm doing all this writing, on the characters and locations of the story. And then it's like, oh, okay, so that's a good way for me to like pepper in things, so I'm not just working in this unilateral direction. I can maintain that unilateral direction while peppering in other elements of the world. And you know, it was like a relief to realize like, okay, it doesn't have to be so strict. I don't have to be so stringent on that. See, now we're back to like Gene and what I was saying, like his clothes pretty much cover him, so you don't see too much of what he is, but you see like the clothes are big and baggy on him, but he still looks pretty standard. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just slightly a little more baggy in the pants area. So beautiful, man. So beautiful the way that they were able to capture these things. You know, it's like looking at these things that helped me realize how I like to approach clothes now, even like for myself, like when I wear clothes. See, look at that. This is perfect. You could almost see his waist, right? And look how baggy the clothes are off of the waist. It's super cool. Super cool. But then here see, it's like, well, he's not fat, but the clothes are big. I don't know how they achieve that. How they achieve the big clothes without making them look fat, because you know that they're thin because they got these pencil thin limbs. I just don't know. You know what I mean? I just haven't been able to get it. Like, and here's that quintessential pose that I'm always like thinking about whenever I think. So this is kind of like the main thing that I'm trying to think about and capture. You know what I mean? Like, think like his legs gotta be like shooting this way and that way. So this seam that would have been running right down the middle here is so low. You know, it's like those skinny jeans that people were wearing where the seam ran all the way like down to the knees, or you know, that middle seam. And I was like, that's a fashion choice, you know what I mean? That's basically what's happened here. But these aren't skinny jeans, they're, you know what I mean, it's like a big baggy clothes, and it's not like it's hanging off of his ass. It's tied up to his waist. So he has these big baggy things tied up to his waist, but then the inseam, or at least the mid seam, runs all the way down to like almost the knees. It's just got to be so much fabric, and it's like, I just haven't figured it out. You know what I mean? I just have not figured it out. Oh, see, look at a little bit of Mugen's waist. So it's like, this is the same pose as the other one back here. So you see this? I wish there was like an X-ray version where you can kind of see this piece. Maybe I could just do it myself with like Photoshop. Just take a couple photographs and try to align this drawing up where he's wearing the clothes. with this one where he's not wearing the clothes, you know what I mean? So you can see, like, even though it's tied up, there's still like enough hang on the sides where there's just a bit of bagginess to it all, you know? And his clothes ain't even all that baggy, but they still achieve it like on a small scale, where over here you can see it's like mad big. There's a whole lot of fabric folding and, you know, airing out there. It's crazy. I just love this stuff. You don't even know how much I love this stuff. Like seeing all the little details and everything. Yeah, see, here it goes again. I just have not figured it out yet. It's so cool. Yeah, if you haven't seen Samurai Champloo, you definitely gotta go. You gotta see that. See, I haven't even gotten to this place. Like I gotta just figure out how to draw props way better. I gotta figure out props way better. I suck at, you know what I mean? I toot my own horn every now and then for like environments that I draw, and it's, you know, at the end of the day, man, I'm terrible. You know, I look at just something like this and I'm just like, garbage. I'm garbage. Remember what I was saying about interesting silhouettes? I know this character is from like episode 3, and he's like a big buff character, and you could almost see like the muscles pop. Like look at the calves pop, the quads pop, the forearms are popping, but still the clothes are baggy on him. Almost has like a Donkey Kong anatomy here. It's so crazy. You know what I mean? Like this is his character down here. So like this silhouette is that guy. So crazy. Just haven't figured out how they do it. And I really appreciate how they draw the chicks in this show. Like how they, like I said, make the clothes just kind of like form to them, but still give it enough like air on the ends where it's almost like spreading out like flower petals. You know what I mean? It's so good. So yeah, whenever I'm drawing clothes, it's like, man, I really want to be able to achieve that bagginess look. Just because I'm into hip hop, you know, I really lately, you know, with the whole Street Fighter 6 thing being like based around hip hop and talking about it a bit, you know what I mean? So this is just nice to be able to dive in, kind of show you guys a little bit more of thought process that goes behind things a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah, this stuff is great. See? Like just trying to imagine the waistlines and just how everything is just big and baggier, you know, and it's just like, man, maybe it's just a case of dropping the sleeves, making the sleeves so much bigger, you know, making, like if this was a tall tee, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, like when I was in high school, tall tees were a thing, so people were wearing those, so it's like wearing a tall tee with a belt going across it. Like maybe it's like that. I guess you could almost say it fits like a dress. I don't want to sound disrespectful like that. But you know, that kind of concept. Back to this character, like I was saying before, the way they're able to achieve the bagginess and the way that the clothes just like you could feel the gravity pulling down on it. You could feel the fabric and the folds. I don't even know how to explain this. I don't even know how to explain what's happening here. It's just so cool. Like it's the sleeve, and it's the folds in the sleeve, the way they were able to simplify that, how they're able to simplify that so that you don't like so it's not like one of my drawings over here where I'm like drawing every wrinkle, every, you know, all the perspective and all that other crap that I'm doing. Look how baggy that is on this guy. You know what I mean? Now it's not to say like, oh, bagginess is the best thing ever, but you definitely want to be able to achieve that look, like the status of all these characters. Because you got everything from government officials to street thugs, you know, and then everything in between, from like young people and old people. To be able to apply this to all of those characters properly is like, it's insanity. I haven't captured the thought yet. You know what I mean? Even with all this talking that I'm doing, I still haven't captured it. So crazy, because if I were to try to draw this and like achieve that, I would just end up drawing this style. And it's like, that's not the goal. My goal isn't to draw this style. My goal is to understand how the clothes fit, how the fashion works onto the body. So that way when I work on my characters and they have their body, their anatomies, and then I'm throwing a shirt on them, I'm throwing some pants on them, throwing a skirt on them, to be able to get that right. Being able to achieve that look of bagginess just hasn't happened. Oh yeah, this guy. But look how cool that looks. Look how cool that looks. If you know this character, you know he's a little corny, but like as far as like having a baggy pair of pants, you know what I mean? And how well they were able to just draw that in with just like a few lines. Just That's like four strokes. Just 4-stroke gang. Just how do they do it? How do they do it? And yeah, maybe it's just a matter of dropping that mid scene right all the way down to like mid thigh, just above the knee. You know what I mean? Yeah, I remember what I was saying about characters and their eyes. Like looking at this character and like looking at this character in their eyes. That was one thing. And then, you know, you got this old guy, like so much attention to detail, but then the simplification of it, so masterful. It's masterful. And it doesn't look like Cowboy Bebop. And it doesn't look like like Space Dandy, the show that he did after that, which is even wilder. You know what I mean? Talking about all this to get to what I am getting to is I don't even remember this character. Almost looks like the assassin, but she's too old to be that character. And honestly, I don't see her in this book. The female assassin with the halberd. Nah, there's one character who she was like a blind assassin, and she carried a halberd, and she whooped both Jean and Mugen. It was wild. That show's so good. You see what I'm saying? Here I am. I'm watching Black Clover and stuff. The show's still good because I like how they tackle like the groups of characters. But man, comparatively, Samurai Champloo is just a different anime. You know what I mean? Very much like Cowboy Bebop, 26 episodes, and it's just like I want more. Where's the movie? Give us something. What happened to the characters after the end of the show when they, you know what I mean? So I'm saying all that to say this. Obviously, I'm into hip hop. So while I'm working on these characters and I built this world and everything, like I see it all in my head. But the point is to be able to get it from my head onto the page to share it with y'all. I still fall short in some areas. You know what I mean? Like obviously, I'm not great at environments. I'm even worse with props. That's just gonna come in time with practice and all that other stuff. And that's what this stream is all about. Alright, man, I want to thank y'all for watching. Thank you for stopping by. I see someone's lurking. Shout out to y'all. I'm GMrDrew at GMrDrew on all socials. Follow, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. GMrDrew.Art, the website. Check it out. I busted out one of my books that I probably got to revisit, reread. Yeah, that's it, man. Just thank you for watching. It means the world to me. Love y'all. Peace.